people can hear Corey, but they can't hear you hear us, Corey?
I do now.
He says he does now, but we don't hear him.
We don't hear him. It's getting switched. It's a mess. We had something happen from the previous show going into this show. No, I know. And then all of a sudden, nothing is working. Now is it working? Do I get a nod? Yes. Corey, can you hear us?
Is saying
I hear you. I've been here. I've heard you for 30 seconds.
Everybody hears everybody now. All good now. Hey, ominous.
What time? This show starts at 1:06 typically, right? So we're all good?
We're good. We're all
right,
good.
so,
Everybody's fine. Don't worry about it. Stop talking.
Corey's going to fire somebody.
All I'll say is
I wish I had that power, Ira. I wish I'd had that power.
Yay, sausage. I'll just do that. There we go. Welcome back. It is that is Ira. There's Corey. I'm Jeff. Dealing with some technical issues, not ideal, but let us soldier through, and we'll do the show for the YouTube audience for now. Register Sausage is there by our side. And when I think of delicious sausage, I think Register Sausage.
There is only one.
There's only one.
Did you see the recipe? They're putting out like recipes. They're showing you how to make dishes, and I think they had one. They posted one on their social media accounts for Register Sausage nachos. It looked pretty tasty, guys. I mean, it looked really. Went through the whole. They have like a 1.5 minute video. They're expanding them. They're gonna have their own channel soon.
Good Lord,
Register Sausage.
Well, I think we need to be a part of that too. We also need to be a part of these earnings as they continue to build an empire on our backs.
They've taken care of us.
Good Lord, yeah.
Registermeats.com is the website. They have you can order in bulk. They have packages of several pounds of delicious pork. You can have delivered to your house. You can get a sampler. You can get, or just pick one kind if you got a favorite kind. I tweeted a picture over the weekend of breakfast. Had the short links for breakfast.
I love the short links. It's kind of underrated.
Yeah,
I really like the short links.
There's probably nobody's number one.
No,
but I think they're in the top 3 or 4. For
every now
people.
And again, you're just kind of like, I just want the short links today. Yeah. Quality, good effort. Well, thank you, Register Sausage, and good job, Ira, as always. Pimping said Register Sausage. What's happening, boys? We haven't spoken since the time we got together last week, unfortunately, surrounding Mike Martin's passing. And then I went out of town.
Been gallivanting in South Florida.
I've been going down to NBA games, guys, just hanging out, watching the stars. Our boy Terrence Mann had a thunderous dunk in the game I was at. It was awesome.
So last weekend, you were in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He was in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out in Mobile.
Oh, you were at the scene. You were doing it up. You got to see some of our guys dominating. It's not like you to go over to Mobile, is it?
I've done it once. I did it the year EJ won the MVP. I was over there for that.
All right. So, what's the takeaway other than our guys shined?
Yeah, I think Braden Fisk was. I mean, all of them had good weeks. Johnny Wilson, from everybody I talked to, had a good week. Jaheim Bell had a good week and played some in the game on Saturday. But I think Braden Fisk did the most for himself. I mean, and he's a guy that, I've wondered, he's a really good college player. I wondered when he came in here how he would adjust to the jump to Power 5. He obviously did that really well. And I think from what you saw in that game, the way they used him, and then what was really cool, one thing I didn't write about, I mentioned it in my story, but it was really cool, was after the game, because they switched him. He was on the American team. The national team needed defensive linemen, so they switched him that day. And all of the American defensive linemen, really, and a bunch of American team players were going to him after the game and like kind of mad at him for switching sides and for playing so well. And so
it's a good compliment.
You could just tell all these other college all-stars that were there all week really liked him and the way he plays.
I heard McShay on Russillo. I don't even know if McShay works for anyone anymore. I literally don't know what his job is. But he talked about Brady. Well, he called him Brandon Fisk, but he talked about Braden Fisk being the one of the most impressive guys at the Senior Bowl. And I don't even think he was talking about the game. He was talking about the one-on-ones and the practices.
Right.
And he was good. He was perfectly good in the game. He was very good in the game. They double teamed him the whole time. And you start to wonder. I mean, I don't think he's a first-round pick. Obviously, he's not maybe quite the requisite size for a first-round defensive tackle, but he's a second-day pick, right? He might be the third player drafted by Florida State, don't you think? Don't you think he's worked himself into that?
Yeah, I thought at the end of the year he was virtually unblockable. You saw him, really dominate games, and he did a lot over the course of the year to kind of move up the ladder, if you will. When he first got here, you just thought he might be a really nice addition to the team. He was going to play, had to prove he was healthy. Then from there, you realized he was a difference maker. He wasn't just a fill. You know, he was a guy that really kind of could change the game for stretches. And then late, I remember thinking, well, if this continues, he is going to play his way into that, third Florida State guy off the board. We're talking about Jared Verse and Keon Coleman going 1-2 for the Noles in terms of the order of Florida State players that get drafted. But yeah, Corey, I think you're right. He could. He's been really, really good, and he's so quick for that size.
Yeah, and when I asked him what's next, he said, well, I'm going back to train in Miami for the combine and going to run a fast 40. And I believe it, man. When you see that straight line speed, like when he chases the ball down, there was that clip people posted on social media for the weekend. Dude's moving.
He outruns, Mike Norvell is, I'll grant you 42 or whatever, but he was a receiver and he's like a $190. He's outrunning him. That's kind of crazy. He's fast. He's very quick, twitchy off the line. He's really strong. So good for him.
Yeah.
You know, it should be noted once again, I've brought it up before, but for all of the anger that people felt about the Orange Bowl, there were a lot of guys that, like Braden Fisk and others, who needed small procedures, something to get themselves ready. They had to prepare themselves for this because they can really change your financial fortunes. I mean, this is a lot more important than that exhibition game. And it was sad what happened, and we all know the reasons for it. But here's an example of a guy that's probably made himself a ton of money by readying himself for that event.
He's also
do you guys think that if Florida State gets more players drafted than Alabama this year, that I might tweet about it?
Well,
and
Corey,
one of them might not be the quarterback. So, again, we're talking about who I would guess Jordan Travis could be drafted, but it's going to be late. And he might be the 7th or 8th player drafted. Jaheim Bell get drafted before him. I don't know, Renardo Green probably. There's guys that will betray Benson. Like he might be drafted, Johnny Wilson. So you're talking about the 7th or 8th guy that gets drafted maybe. And it's like, okay, just know that I'm going to be clocking that. How many Alabama guys get drafted? How many Florida State guys get drafted? So we can just revisit that discussion about how Alabama was clearly a better team because of the quarterback.
Yeah, and this is a draft that I think Florida State fans have been very excited about for a while. We projected before the year even began that they could have 10 to 12 guys go. I mean, potentially go in the draft. Now think about that. How long has it been since Florida State had anything close to double digits in the draft? And all of a sudden, on Sundays, and I love NFL football, not everybody does, but it gets easier if you're a Florida State fan to flip on the NFL on Sundays when you can flip around the league and you see a guy on almost every team that you're watching. At least one player out there on the field is a Florida State guy. And it's really, really good for your program, for the look of your program, and to draw more players in. And we've told this story 1,000 times, but if all those transfers end up getting drafted, many of them in the first 4 rounds, it's huge for the next group of kids that you're going to be bringing in the portal. Why wouldn't you come here?
Especially most of those guys, if not all of them, maybe everybody other than Keon Coleman, probably, and maybe Jared Verse, were not anywhere near that level at their previous school. The Trey Bensons and Johnny Wilson really didn't do much at the previous schools. You look at even
Jerry Jones is going to get drafted.
Yeah, Braden Fisk maybe, but I feel like just doing it at this level, doing it at the Power 5 level, helped solidify it. He may have done that if he had gone to Notre Dame. He probably would have. I don't think there's any doubt.
He's a good player.
I do think Odell and that staff has done a good job with him, but he was really a good player. But when he came to Florida State, but yeah, most of those guys, and then you talk about some of those older guys who really developed in the program, Renardo Green and Jarian Jones and some of those guys. So yeah, man, I think the draft is going to be, because they didn't, they've gotten it with 23 wins over the last 2 seasons, but I think the draft will be another validation for Mike Norvell and that staff.
Do you remember when COVID happened? You guys remember that, right? When COVID kind of shut down?
I think so. I think it was in
2020. Yeah, it was 2020. Great year all around. But I remember the draft that year. When Devin Vassell and Patrick Williams, I think, were 2 of the top 10 or 12 picks. And people were like, man, Leonard really had a good team this past year. And we're like, yeah, no, duh. We watched them beat everybody they played. They were like 26-5 when the season was canceled. But it was like that draft. The draft, it shouldn't have, but it validated just how talented that team was, where those 2 guys, one of them was a 6th man. Vassell averaged, he was the leading scorer, but he averaged 13 a game. I think there could be there will be a reckoning with this draft too, even if it's just 7 guys. 7 or 8 guys off this team that it's not just like TCU where they had 2 dudes drafted and they won a lot of games. I mean, this was a very talented team and an undefeated team that, it wasn't just loaded with pretty good players. They were NFL players. And that's what I think the draft will tell people.
I agree. And I think that's already started with these all-star games, which a lot of times these all-star games don't really mean a whole lot. To your point, a lot of times it is what they do in practice more than it is what they do in the games. But what they've done in practice is, I mean, if this game, the East-West Shrine game, they have individually, and I think that's kind of what's been good for it's almost weird. It's almost like backwards for a team. That team was so successful because of the completeness of the team. Like, it was not a team built on 1 or 2 superstars. That's why the whole argument from Herb Street and that crew was ridiculous, because what made that team great was that it was such a complete team. And because it was such a complete team, I think some people got underappreciated. And so now when they go to these all-star events or when they go to the combine, I think it's going to give them a chance to kind of get their individual shine, which, maybe they didn't get during the season, especially because they got snubbed out of the playoff.
It's a weird deal, man. Going back to the start of the season, when I would talk to Noles throughout the state that aren't up here, don't get to go to practice, not in the media, didn't know what, they're just Florida State fans that I know and have been friends with for a long time. They'll text me, what do you think about the team? What strength, weaknesses, whatever. Like, one of the things that I kept bringing up to those people who are out of town who wanted the inside dope, that was like, look, man, we have some NFL players here. Like, it was really easy to recognize each segment group. You could be like, that guy's going to the league, that guy's going to the league. And I think I said it to one of you two just walking around. We haven't said that in a long time.
We may have to do the draft contest again.
It's been a minute.
We haven't done it.
It used to depress us. It was kind of a joke. There was a stretch there where I didn't like when Gene would send out the email. Like, we probably shouldn't do this.
There might be one guy in the 6th round. I don't know.
Yeah, it was tough. I'd be sending back undrafted free agent with like every guy that was on the list. And he's like, you really don't think? No, he's not going to get drafted, Gene. But no, this time around, I really thought going into the season, there was the possibility of 10 to 12. And, you got to play out a season, dudes get hurt, whatever it might be. But, yeah, I thought they had 10 to 12 NFL-looking guys. And I happen to know somebody who's connected with the Seattle Seahawks organization who scouts for them. And his first text that he sent me was that, hey, man, there's a lot more NFL talent here than there was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Like, yeah. That's what I've been saying. He's doing a good job of bringing in, because that really does indicate where you're at as a program. Every year, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, others just stockpile the draft of players. Yeah. Florida State hasn't been doing that. They will this year.
Well, some of it happens when you remember in the 90s, Jeff, when some guys, Florida State players would get drafted almost because of the school they went to. Like a team would take a feeler in the 6th round because he started at Florida State. I think you could get some of that now, too. Like, if you're between, I don't know, man, Kalen DeLoach and some linebacker that played at UTEP, you might be like, well, Kalen DeLoach was kind of a badass at a really good program and played a lot of games and a lot of football at that big-time level. I think you lean towards the guys that would – I think that name can start resonating with NFL teams again, because let's be honest, it hasn't for half a decade at least. Like, they had 2 guys drafted the last 2 years total. And now, one of them was Jermaine Johnson, and then Jamie Robinson was I think a 5th or 6th round pick.
5th round, yeah.
And so now you have a draft where you could get to double digits. I mean, DeLoach is a draftable kid. Renardo Green, I'm really interested in Ira. He was out there, right? Jordan Travis was out there at the Senior Bowl. Obviously didn't participate.
He went to the East-West Shrine game. I don't know.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Because he did the interview process there.
I wonder he's going to be a fascinating deal, because he was not going to be a 1st or 2nd day pick anyway, probably. But I think he would have been a guy that it wasn't injured. Somebody would have taken him anywhere from the 4th to the 7th round. And I wonder if you think that will still happen.
Somebody just put out, have him going to the Steelers, like in the 5th or 6th round, maybe.
Really? Yeah. I obviously, we're all rooting for him. I hate the injury for him. I mean, I think he was a bit of a 4th or 5th round guy prior to the injury, so he would have got drafted. With the injury, you really worry about it. I mean, it's a big deal.
I do think the things that are good for him are, I mean, a lot of times, and again, what are you getting in your 7th round pick or 6th round pick? A lot of times. And so this is a guy who could be a good quarterback. We'll see. Could definitely be a good backup quarterback. And a lot of times what you're looking for in a backup quarterback, especially early in their career.
Accountability professionalism.
Yeah, man, just somebody who's going to be there, do what he's supposed to do, be on top of it. And I think you guys watch the NFL more than I do. Doesn't it? It seems to me like some of these teams now like a change of pace guy as a backup.
Well, in the league is accepted completely the idea that you can have a quarterback that doesn't fit the measurables that they once did. You see it all over the league. I mean, look, Baker Mayfield just had his best year, threw for over 4,000 yards. He's not quite 6 feet tall. I mean, you look around the league now, guys can get drafted and they're 5'11" at quarterback, 5'10". That didn't used to happen if you had extraordinary skills. Now, I'm not saying Jordan Travis was going to get drafted there, but Jordan Travis is a guy who will show up. He'll understand the playbook. He'll be an awesome teammate, and he'll be a very good leader in that sense. Now, you don't need him to be great if you draft him in the 7th round. You're going to give him time. He's a guy that might make your team learn and has an upside a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, where you're like, look at this. We may have something here. So why wouldn't you? Because, a lot of 7th round guys, 6th round guys, people like that don't make the team.
Yeah, I would think there's almost zero risk with him. Like, you're drafting a guy that won't embarrass you on or off the field. Like, if he gets a shot, nobody expects a 7th round quarterback. And I know who's played in the Super Bowl, but nobody expects a 7th round quarterback to be some future starter or star. So there's no pressure on him, but he would give you a reliable backup, a guy that is going to know the system and is going to study his ass off. And also, can play. He didn't do this against chumps. Like, he's he turned himself into a very good college quarterback that didn't just beat you with his legs. Like, he was a cerebral guy, which I think would be appealing to an NFL team to just take a shot. What are you going to draft, a backup offensive guard in the 6th round? You can pull those guys off the couch. Well, I guess the Ravens did that with Flacco too, or the Browns did that with Flacco too. But I just think that guy would be he'd be good in the building. And I just think he'd be a great asset to a team as a later draft pick, because you just don't know how healthy he's going to be.
Well, and that I think would be the best part of it for him. Finding a positive ray of hope in his situation physically is that anybody that does draft him, for example, the Steelers drafted him, it would be with the knowledge that, look, we're not expecting a lot from him. We've got to get him healthy. We got to give him time to learn everything, understand the system, and then show us what he can do going into maybe like that next year. I don't know if he's going to be available for this year or not, but the point is there won't be pressure on him. Whereas a guy who gets drafted in the 1st or 2nd round, who may be asked to play right away, sometimes that sucks.
The process has changed, and what they look for has changed a lot in the NFL. There was a time in back in the day, Jordan Travis wouldn't get drafted, where you'd just be like, that guy does not equate to the league. But that's changed. That's changed dramatically. We've seen all kinds of players make it. If you're a good college quarterback, even if you're lacking certain things that pros historically have wanted, you can see all throughout the league, including Brock Purdy starting in the Super Bowl, that it's possible that being responsible, being hardworking, being smart, it can pass in the right system. It can pass. Nobody thinks Brock Purdy, if thrown into some other situation, would have had as much success as he's had in San Francisco. But that's not the point. He only has to be able to do what they're asking him to do, and he can.
I don't know, and again, this doesn't bother me necessarily, but so Spencer Rattler, I guess, had a great week there because people were talking him up, and then he won the MVP, even though he only completed 4 out of 4 passes. But I mean, did anybody see anything in his college career that you're like, okay, he's going to be our franchise quarterback? But it seems like because he did well at this event this week, I don't know, man. There's like a lot of buzz when I was there. There's a lot of buzz about him. I always try to separate, is it that you're surprised he looked good and therefore he might get drafted, where I went into these practices thinking he was a 5th or 6th round guy at best. Yeah. Like, did he just elevate? And is that the surprise, as opposed to oh my God, Spencer Rattler, because we all know that you're not drafting Spencer Rattler in the first 2 rounds. So, I mean, he may have just elevated his stock. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Gotta wonder how pumped up the audience is for me to introduce basketball to the discussion. I think we should let
what basketball in particular? I mean, I guess it depends on what basketball.
Yeah, I think we should let Corey dissect the Louisville loss en route to a discussion about the game against Boston College tonight. That'll keep him locked in. I will say
that game is tonight.
Yeah.
Oh,
love you, Leonard. Can't lose to Louisville, and you can't give up 100-plus points. What the hell?
100 points is a lot.
Dude, 101 points from sorry-ass team.
They were like 218th in the country in scoring coming into that game, and you gave them 101. And it wasn't just like, look, if it had played out the normal way without fouling at the end, they would have only gotten to like 91. But they still had 47 in the first half. When was the last time Louisville scored 47 points in a first half? Back when Purvis Ellison was there?
They did shoot 45 free throws. That was the thing. The frustrating thing about that game is you can't even point to the officiating for being the problem but the officiating was awful. I mean, it was ridiculous the way they called that game from the first half to the second. First half, they're mugging people and nothing's getting called.
Right.
Second half, they're just calling everything, and now it's just a free throw competition. So that was terrible. I mean, it's just made for an all-around awful viewing experience. And then this kid from Louisville, who I am convinced, the freshman from Louisville, who was 27 and 12 or something, I'm convinced he's going to go 2 of 19 in his next game. And so that's going to even infuriate. Just be ready to be infuriated even more when you see that.
Nobody's going to see it. They're not going to see it.
People will point that out. People always point that out.
Well, they'll see the box score. They might look at the box score. Yeah, nobody's watching. Nobody's watching the game.
But no, here's the thing. The one thing I did want to say about that, though, is the biggest problem in that game wasn't just the game. It's because they have ruined any goodwill that they had, and they lost so much goodwill in last year and the first half of this season. My point is, teams have bad games.
Sure.
You have, like, college basketball teams, they will have stinkers where they go on the road, lose by 15, and people are like, what's going on? But you have so much in your reservoir of good wins or goodwill that it's not that big of a deal. But when they've got so little of either, they showed a ray of hope, and then to have that effort, it feels inexcusable.
I worried about it. I did, oddly, because of the 7-day break.
Right.
And I hate that. And then you come out looking like that. It doesn't help that, a Kenny Payne team has never, this is true, scored 100 points.
Well, we could say they were not coached to do that. I mean, it was not an X's and O wizardry, yeah. I don't think, on either side.
But no, it wasn't. But you can't allow a team to score over 30-plus points more than their average.
Yeah. Did they ever break out the zone at all? And I know Leonard doesn't like play zone, but they have played a few possessions here or there. Maybe you should have just tried for a possession or two.
And that's what kind of bothers me about it is I know Florida State's just going to do what they're going to do. And they're a bad matchup for a lot of teams that like to run sets, that have offenses where they're running 3 or 4 sets and a set off a set. In an action off another action.
Ironically, when Chris Mack was at Louisville, that's why he could never.
But Louisville with Kenny Payne is just, man, if you got the ball, there's no semblance of an offense, which when you're trying to guard a jet quick point guard with 6'7" or 6'10", he gets into the paint at will and you don't adjust. That is a great matchup for Louisville, a team like that. That particular Louisville team. Now, it might not be a great matchup for Boston College because their point guard isn't Louisville's point guard, and they might have a lot more struggle. They might struggle a lot more to score. But that's what bothered me. I don't even know if you could say it was just horrible effort. I just thought,
no, I agree.
That defense where you switch everything and you're guarding good point guards or a guy that's having a great night with a dude that can't stay in front of him, you got no chance. And most teams want to run action. Louisville's just like get in the paint and get it up. Shoot it or pass it to me and I'll dunk it. And that's what they did all night.
And it got complicated by the officiating.
So again,
right. I'm not putting it on the officials, but I'm just saying that made it even worse because that kid was quick so he could get a step on anybody. And then if anything happened, they were going to blow the whistle.
Here's the question. It's
also predictable, though, right? You got to know that going in, how quick that kid is. That drives me nuts. It's not like they didn't look at film. They know who he is. They know that's a matchup problem with the way we play. But Louisville had won 6 effing games and was 212.
Oh, it's embarrassing.
It's just there's no getting around it, and you've ruined your season. Now, there's no coming back from this now.
The season is ruined. Now you got some chances for some nice wins, but you're not going to the NCAA tournament. That's a done. I mean, and look, if you can lose to Louisville,
I've got a hot take. But go ahead.
Oh boy, But I guess my question now is, to me, honestly, like I liked what I was seeing from this team, the way it had played since January 1st. I really had, and I was like, okay, I can see some direction in the program. I can see some hope for the future in the program. That loss was so bad, giving up 101 points, and then you look at the rest of the schedule, and you're like, okay. If they go 15-17 or 17-15, what happens?
Well, here's real quick, 2 things. One is I think there's some nuance in what you were just saying there that I think I would like to bring up, and I'll give you my little stupid hot take. But the nuance thing
really
is
pumped about this hot take.
Well, the nuance
warm take.
It's a tongue-in-cheek hot take. But the nuance is what happened from January 1st through what happened from after the Lipscomb game to the North Carolina game did happen. Right. And so, and like I said earlier, usually you're going to have a stinker. A stinker is going to happen. The reason this looks so bad is because of what happened before January 1st.
You've had a bunch of them.
So if they can continue what they were doing, because teams do that all the time. Teams will be playing well, have one awful night, and then come back and start playing better. If they do that, because my point is, Corey, when we were sitting there at the North Carolina game, you were looking at the roster and go, oh, well, shoot, they only lose Darren Green. And I mean, this team might be something decent next year. That's my only argument is that didn't change. Like, and so if they go back to playing well and they've closed the season off playing well, are they going to make the tournament as that large? No, almost no chance of that. But that wouldn't change the trajectory of the program by one awful night. Usually teams can survive an awful night because they didn't have that first semester, which was so bad. Back to my hot take. Hey, the nice thing is, guys, they don't have to worry about these regular season games anymore because they're not going to be in that large. They just got to no pressure.
Just win the
just play these games.
Tournament.
There's no pressure anymore. There was pressure in that game. There's no more pressure anymore. Just go win the ACC tournament, and then you're in.
Yeah,
that's all it's going to take.
That's all. But that loss knocked them out of the NIT. Like,
who cares about the NIT? Did you want to go to the NIT? What were the chances?
I want to go to the postseason.
What would you? How much money would you have bet on Jeff going to the NIT?
I'm not traveling to an NIT game.
No, you wouldn't even go to this. You wouldn't go to the Tucker Center for an NIT game. Is that what you're not traveling?
Free seat in the club with free food and drinks.
Yeah, I would do that. Chance. Sure, nothing wrong with that. That's all the NIT deserves out of me. I'll go to that sorry ass NIT if it's at home, but you got to at least make the NIT. Like, you have the level of teams that make it. You can't even get into that. Then there's this secondary level of kind of sorry ass teams that make a tournament. Can't even get into that. And when you're rock bottom, not even getting into the NIT, good God, man. And you ask what happens, Corey? Well,
that's what because at the end of the year, and look, we're the beginning of February, and so we can't be too reactionary about a good stretch or a horrible loss. We will have to reassess in the middle of March. But what if the 3-week stretch in January was the anomaly, and what happened before and what happened starting with Louisville is the real team? I was hoping. I thought we were past the, hey, are they going to have to fire Leonard kind of conversation? And I'm not advocating for that. I'm not advocating for them not to do it. I'm sitting squarely on a fence. I was hoping. I don't want them to do that. I don't want to do that.
That's the best talk radio.
Yeah, it's really right there in the middle.
But it's real, man. Like it's real. I'm not just hopping off the fence. But I'm not going to hop off the fence for no reason or just to play radio. I like the man a lot, and I really do appreciate what he's done for the program. But I guess my point is, if they're at the end of the year and they're 16-16, yeah, they're better than they were at 9 wins. But we're now 3 years removed from Scotty Barnes, and this program is an afterthought.
But you can say this because I think Leonard would understand it. He may not like it, but he would understand it. It's not unreasonable for a fan who's watching this from afar, to say, look, guys, they haven't been relevant in 3 years. At the end of this year, if they don't do anything, you can point that out because it's true. And the counter to that might be, well, Leonard did a lot of great things, and this isn't a traditional basketball school, and maybe people starting to have the debate or even asserting that they think he should be fired is it's not a crazy thing to say.
No, it's not. But here's the other thing I would say, and this is why I push back on the overreaction sometimes to a 1-game sample.
Sure.
Is I had lunch last week with a couple guys. In the last couple of weeks, with a couple guys who played basketball at Florida State, and they were excited about this team. And
Yeah.
then after they lost, the Florida State lost to North Carolina. Every fan I talked to, I would ask them, how'd you feel about that game?
Yeah.
And every single fan I talked to was
right
like,
there.
man, they were right there. They played hard,
Yeah.
just missed some free throws, but I liked it. And so to me, I can't get along with, okay, now it's complete. It's been a complete disaster.
Not because of the Louisville game, although that's a disastrous
It was
loss.
a disastrous game.
And it's not the first one, as you pointed out. The Lipscomb game, I mean, Louisville's right below Lipscomb. But
but you can't have been there a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and then now.
Well, Ira, you act like remember everybody being excited about the Notre Dame overtime loss in 21? The very next week they lost to Jacksonville State, and everybody was off. That's fandom. Like if you have another data point, and that was and again, I hope you don't throw me in with those fans that think Leonard should be fired. I think we wait, and I don't want him to be fired, period. I think it would just be off. I want him to go out on his own, one way or the other, go out on his own, hopefully with the NCAA tournament team. So let's hope they win that tournament in North Carolina.
No, but, I'm with you. I was trying to kind of echo what you're saying. Why and explain kind of why you.
It's one loss, and it's a horrible loss.
Why you want to see more of the season. But I'm also answering to, I know people listening to this going, are you effing kidding me with these guys defending Leonard Hamilton? I'm not. I just want to see the next several games.
Basketball is like that, man.
I'm really worried. I'm worried that they go careening off the mountain.
But you were worried 4 weeks ago, and then they had a great run.
Without question.
But the problem now is that, like, they're at BC tonight.
And that's the thing.
But my point is, nobody is. Like, teams that are great have losses like that. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it happens.
I guess when you project ahead, though, they're at BC tonight. That's essentially a coin flip. If they can hit some shots, they'll win. If they can't,
they've lost their last 3 games there.
It's a nightmare.
It's definitely they're an underdog.
They're home against Virginia. Good luck. Virginia's holding everybody to 40 points, and I hate that program. I hate it. So now you could be looking at best, you beat Boston College and you probably lose one of these next 2 games, and now you've lost, 4 out of 6. In the momentum you built is over, and then that's where let's see how they can rebound, how they can respond. I just don't want to see it
go careening off the cliff.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I'm scared about. When you have some disappointments like that, like they fought their ass off against North Carolina, and then this game happens, and you're like, uh-oh. Now, if they lose to BC tonight, you can see, you get Chandler Jackson. I don't know what's going on with him, and he's in Ham's doghouse, and you just start to get worried. Do people become, look, they could have packed it in after that awful start, so maybe they won't.
Yeah,
maybe they won't. But I worry that they will.
I'm not predicting that they are going to keep going and have a great finish to the season. I'm not predicting that they're going to do anything. They may go in the tank. I think it could go either way. It wouldn't surprise me. Or they could be down the middle. And then, but my point is, we kind of need to see what happens before. I mean, we can discuss it, but I just don't. I have a hard time with 1 week people are feeling very good about it, and then the next week it's like, oh, this has been a complete disaster. Just like free throw shooting. Somebody mentioned Andy Enfield in the chat, and I don't have a problem with that comment. Although USC has not had a very good year, but it's funny, like the things that people have in their historical knowledge, and then they just bring back up whenever it's convenient.
Yeah.
Andy Enfield got all this credit for Florida State's free throw shooting when he was an assistant coach here. Then he's been gone for a long time. And Florida State had some years where they shot great free throws. You know when they did? When they had really good players.
Yeah, good free throw shooters.
Those are the teams.
Kind of like the inbounds pass too. Remember when they couldn't get the ball in?
Yeah.
They had bad players. They got good players. They got the ball in all the time.
So when they had the North Carolina game, they couldn't shoot free throws. Everybody started bringing up Andy Enfield. Why can't we get Andy Enfield back? Guys, if you have better players, they're going to hit their free throws. Better shooters.
Let's hope it doesn't go careening. That's all we'll say. Because then they're probably forced into a decision at that point.
It'll be a lot more Taylor Swift talk, which is what everybody needs in their lives right now.
Oh,
it's more Taylor Swift talk.
Seminole Headlines 93.3 Real Talk Radio Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
I just saw the comment there, P. Simpson, and it makes me laugh. Hubie Brown would be great for this program.
Yeah, he's still kicking it.
Can I say one last thing on him real quick? And I think Jeff wanted to move on. Here's I guess, in some of his comments, I think yesterday, I didn't hear it. I think maybe it was on the ACC call. I saw a couple tweets from Bob Ferrante, maybe somebody else about that, Ham talked about, just the lack of leadership on that team. And that may have led to, that situation. And here's the one thing I would say about this whole situation. I think what happens at the end of the season, what decisions Michael Alford, the administration, anybody else makes is got to be based entirely on the results at this point, because really in year 2021, the circumstances can't really matter. You built this team. It's gone through whatever it's gone through these last couple of years. Just like last year, I didn't think it was fair for him to say, well, I didn't get the memo about the transfer portal. Well, that's an indictment on you that you had to have gotten the memo. Now he has. But then you can't turn around and say, okay, well, we don't have enough leadership. I mean, you've been here, you built this program. So that's the only thing I would say on that. I don't think it's going to matter really what stories or excuses or thoughts or reasons at this point. It's going to be what happens in this last stretch of the season. I think is going to determine what they have to do.
And what I was saying, Corey, to you is, we all, because we respect and really like the man, and he's done some great things here, we kind of walk on eggshells. But the truth of the matter is, if you're just speaking from a fan standpoint, if they lose a bunch of games, almost unanimously, they're going to want him gone, period. That's just the way it is. And that's how ugly it will get. And you'll start to hear that more and more. And, and I get it. Favorite of the newcomer interviews? Who's the one that stands out most to either one of you? That you
I know Corey's.
Oh, it was, Tomawa
Durjaye,
the kid from West Virginia. Man, if you go watch his interview, I wrote a whole column on it, Jeff. You were traveling. I know that's why you didn't read it.
I saw the column. I understand.
It's not right. It's not normal, and it's probably stupid to just judge how a player is going to be based on a 10-minute interaction with him behind a podium. But number one, he's huge. He's big. And I love kids with crazy confidence, irrational confidence. This kid's talking about being a first-round pick. And it's like you shoot for the moon, you shoot for the stars, you might land on the moon kind of thing. Was that a Jerry Springer saying? I don't remember.
Casey Kasem, maybe?
That could have been it.
The stars.
Yeah. You might land on the moon. So he wants to be a first-round pick. He expects to be a first-round pick. Well, maybe he's a fourth-round pick, or maybe he's a second-team all-conference guy. But I love guys that expect that kind of stuff out of themselves, because I think they're driven a little differently, and I expect him to make a bigger impact than I did a week ago.
I thought he was going to make a big impact anyhow. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I certainly like it when they're 6'5", 280.
Yeah, it's better. It's better than when they're 5'11".
Keyshawn Helton believed in himself.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, let's say this. I think collectively, what you see is, and what you hear is, a level of maturity that I'm very fond of. Guys that are coming from Power 5 programs that have had some success or recruited heavily by other Power 5 programs. A lot of those guys, especially the Alabama kids, you can hear it. They sound like pros in some cases. They just sound like professional athletes. It's amazing. If you close your eyes, didn't know where they were from, and you listen to that conversation, there were several times where I was like, well, that kid just sounds like polished, like he's been in the league. And they've got a lot of guys like that. That stood out to me collectively from the newcomers, a lot of mature voices.
Yeah, and I don't know, and to Corey's point, we can only get so much. I watched the interview. I can tell why Corey's impressed by the guy. We don't know for sure that that's how it's going to translate, but I will say that that's exactly why I like Trey Benson. If you remember when Trey Benson came in and did his introductory interview, the way he was so defiant and confident when people kept asking him about his knee injury and the fact that he really didn't do anything at Oregon, he wasn't abrasive about it, but there was just a quiet confidence and resolve about him. You could feel it. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, man, this kid, I'm with this kid. And we know he was talented by what he did in high school. And I think it's the same situation with Durjaye in the sense that he, look, man, he's physically supremely gifted. If he can move at all, and I know he said he wants to drop a little weight, but dude, that's a big dude.
He's also 19. He's 19 years old. He's going to be 20 soon, but he's 19 right now, which is crazy. There's kids that are 19 that are part of this freshman recruiting class. He's already 19 and played 2 years of college football. Now, I know he didn't play at Kentucky, but he was at Kentucky for a year. And then he's been around big-time college football now for 2 years, and he's only 19. Like, that's another thing that really excites you is you never know with kids these days and the ages because everybody holds their kids back. We should have done that with Brady. I'll be honest with you guys. We should have held him back and had him repeat kindergarten. He'd be like the number 8 player in the class of 2027, but now he's got no chance. We did wrong by him. But yeah, so the fact that he's only 19 is really, really intriguing too.
Joseph in the chat said he loves the show. If Trayshawn tried coming back from BC, would we take him or say room's full?
For Trayshawn Ward? Yeah, that's right. I forgot he went to Boston College, and now they just lost their coach.
That's right.
Yeah,
would you take Castellanos?
I would not.
I would not.
I actually watched them a good bit. I don't know how much you watch them later in the season. I watched them more than I probably should have just because, I don't know, I'm a glutton for punishment. But they he'll make 5 or 6 incredible plays, and then he will throw the ball to a linebacker.
What if he came to you and was like, look, the only place I would leave Boston College for is Florida State. And I don't even need a guaranteed spot. I just want to be in that program and give me a shot after DJ leaves to win the job. Would you not just take him so you don't have to play him?
I'm not worried about playing him in the state.
All right. It'll be their first game, so you know he's going to be healthy and he's going to be running around like a deer because he's going to be healthy.
You've seen him and you know it. And if you're Adam Fuller and you let it happen again, no. Man, that was a flu game. I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
Because to Ira's point, I did watch him because I thought that this might have been a little bit of smoke and mirrors. I thought there was some odd stuff going on there. And then when I watched him later on, he'd have these games where you're like, wow, lighten it up. And then the next game, you're like, he's terrible.
Or from
how
series
in the world
to series.
Did this guy? Yeah, it really, there are stretches where he's awful.
Yeah.
I can't play at all. Like this guy's ass. And then there would be times where you're like, oh, he's running around again, which is annoying, but that's not exactly what I'm building it on. So
I like Corey's idea, though. Corey wants to go back to the old Alabama days where they signed 200 players
guys.
so they don't have to play anybody.
Yeah, man, because that's the thing. That's the season opener for them. So they might run him crazy for 170 yards and might get busted up and not have a game like that again. But he did it that day against you, just like he did. He was a little bit fresher earlier in the season. His second start and his first start was against Holy Cross.
Well, we had guys holding knees and couldn't breathe.
Well, right.
That was a weird set of circumstances.
Plus, they got that big lead and just kind of took the foot off the gas.
Also, I think it's an advantage for Florida State to have had the game against Georgia Tech before facing Boston College. That's a huge advantage. I mean, nobody can recreate the speed of the game in practice. So the kid comes out there. I know he's a great athlete, but you're going to be accustomed to what he can do. You already saw it. He already burned you once. Now you've played a game. You ought to be in good shape for that.
It'd be interesting to see if he even stays there. Like, they don't know their coach is going to. They don't still have a coach yet, right?
If you follow Bruce Feldman on Twitter, you know that Bill O'Brien clearly wants the job, and Bruce Feldman's doing everything he can to get him. He tweets about Bill O'Brien, I swear, 6 times a day.
They're boys.
Oh, my God.
They've gone out and had some wine.
That's my favorite part of this season is seeing which coaches that different national reporters
prop up. Yeah, they've had a good time. We'll get to headliner questions as we start the next hour. Hang with us. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our huge showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
Barry knows cool. He's keeping you comfortable. Barry knows cool. You can put him to the test.
Your heating and air conditioning system doesn't check with you before it takes a break. That's why we're always ready to help. Any day, anytime, anywhere. And with our annual service agreement, there are no overtime charges. Ever. At Verno Heating and Air, we will always be there for you.
Barry knows heating and air conditioning.
License CAC 1816186.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Man, I just got a text from my wife. She wants me to cook dinner and then snuggle on the couch next to a roaring fire.
So what's the problem, Dave? You already got the new grill and you're a great cook.
I got one major problem. We don't have a fireplace.
Man, that's an easy fix. Just call Hearth and Patio. They got a lot of fireplaces that can help you for your romantic evenings. Wood, gas, electric, and a ton of different sizes, man. Call Hearth and Patio today, 850-727-4282, or visit them online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth and Patio. Ignite that spark in your life.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show, live and local.
It's time for Seminole Headlines, featuring Warchant.com's Jeff Cameron, managing editor Ira Schofel, and senior writer Corey Clark. Your weekly dose of all things FSU, pistols, and pies starts right now. Here's Jeff Cameron.
Hour number 2, Seminole Headlines and headliner questions coming your way here in just a moment. I'm Jeff. That is Ira across from me. Corey is there. There's the window with Corey. Hello, Corey. We'll get to your questions in just a moment. First, we want to say thank you to Dr. Birch Orthodontics. We do it every week, off the cap. Appreciate our sponsors, their loyalty. Hey, you know what? Do business with people who do business with us. And they happen to be great at what they do.
And they're all, awesome.
Yeah,
really.
awesome what they do.
Impeccable.
That's right. So Birch Orthodontics is where you need to go if your kids need their teeth fixed, or hell, you as an adult or just a buddy or whatever.
Granny, we've established this.
Yeah, we can do it.
Dr. Birch is not an ageist.
No.
Unlike Corey.
Or me.
Well,
I'm just an ageist when it comes to people that do sign language. I got a problem with old sign interpreters.
As Jeff said, our kids have gone there. Tremendous smiles coming out of it. We can't recommend them highly enough.
That's
great
true.
people, great staff, latest techniques. They've got payment plans to make it affordable as possible. We know it's a hefty price tag to do that kind of work, but they do tremendous work and they'll work with you on the financing. And the website is birchorthodontics.com, BURCH orthodontics.com.
We're coming out the gates swinging, boys. This is
I think when I mentioned sign language, I did something with my hands. I would like to apologize for that. I assume that's incredibly insulting. It's hard not to. It's like when you say an email and you do that. I don't know with my hands because I don't know sign language clearly. So I'd like to apologize to anybody for making gestures with my hands.
Maybe we'll go back and blur out the video.
I think you'll be forgiven. I think people understand. All right. So we're coming out the gates swinging. OG headliner Sean says Kirk Herbstreit appears to still not understand why FSU fans are upset with him. Has there been or will there be any overtures towards him by Warchant to have a conversation? I'd love to hear that interview, as I'm sure the rest of the headliners in Seminole Nation would. Well, it's funny that you bring it up because I said that to Tom a while back. I mean, I've interviewed Herbstreit 4 times, I think, total. And I've been doing this a long time, but I think 4 or 5 times. And it's always been a pleasant interview. I imagine now he'd come in with the dukes up.
Yeah, that's the challenge right now. Is I noticed that since we've been ranting about Herbstreit and ESPN, since I particularly have, you guys have as well, but I can speak for myself that there's somebody ESPN PR that used to follow me that doesn't follow me anymore.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. It may be difficult. I don't know if he'd be fired up. It is interesting. I guess, what do you do if you're Herbstreit at this? Because I was thinking about this. He is so hunkered down in this thought that he was right, and that the people coming at him from FSU are the lunatic fringe, which is what he said in his tweet. And at this point, even if he had changed his stance on that and said, you know what, guys,
I've thought about
it more. It was unfortunate what happened to Florida State. Would that even help it any? Like, is there anything he could do to damage control what the last couple months have done?
It's a good point, because I've thought something similar. I've thought, man, is he too entrenched now to ever come off that stance? Even if he thought better of it, even if he thought, like, because he had colleagues who were adamantly opposed to his viewpoint and said, I don't know how you could say that. As somebody who played the game, Kirk, I don't know how you could have that opinion. So he knows.
Booger McFarland.
Well, several. Yeah, several. RG3 several times.
Greg McElroy until the night before the Sunday reveal show.
He got bought out. He got bought out.
McElroy was that signing day flip. He was the Travis Hunter of the media contingent.
But there were a lot of people, even people who have been traditionally labeled by Florida State fans as anti-Florida State, that thought, oh, this is wrong. I mean, I bet you there's the vast majority of my fellow Noles that would tell you that they had somebody who was of the Gator fandom or Kane fandom who thought, oh, that's wrong. It's wrong, because if it happened to us, we'd be livid. Like they could put themselves in the shoes of another in that situation. And I wondered, like, at some point, if he realized, when you have your colleagues at ESPN saying, oh, no, you're nuts. Well, obviously, are they lunatics? Like you've labeled everybody else who's mad at Florida? Are they lunatics? Because there were some who were like, this is what happens. RG3 went on a rant after the 63-3 and was like, this is what happens when you steal opportunity from people. And I've wondered if time would heal a little bit of that. and before the trip to Ireland, not for you and me and the fans, it wouldn't, Corey, because the snub happened and they can never go back and redo it. And the opportunity to win a national championship was stolen. But that's a different feeling than what we're talking about, hearing from somebody, having a conversation with somebody. And yeah, I mean, there would be a percentage of the fan base that the second they heard his voice would say, why is this guy on? Screw him eternally. But I think there'd be a larger segment that would like to hear that conversation.
I get it, but I don't know to what end. Like, I guess my point, Corey, I'm curious, is there anything he could say to change anybody's opinions about what he did and how he acted, and then how he acted after the fact?
Probably not. No, probably not. And I
don't know how you sell the interview.
I mean, he could admittedly say, he could come out and admit, man, in hindsight of 8 or 9 months, yeah, that was a mistake. Once I see that you had 9 guys drafted and not one was named Jordan Travis, or Jordan Travis was the last guy drafted, so you had other guys besides him. When you think about an interview, there's no way it doesn't. There's no way if even any of the three, if he appeared on this show, it would get contentious almost immediately, because he is not a guy that rolls with punches. He is not a guy that says that's a fair point. Look at him on Twitter; he's a maniac, and it's very, very defensive, and he's so ingrained in it.
Yeah, and he's so unhinged on Twitter. He's like spelling things wrong.
Yeah, one thing somebody at ESPN should say to him is like, don't fight these battles on Twitter. This is not where you want to be. That's not the forum for it either.
But I think it's not. I think this is uncomfortable for him because he's been kind of the golden child for so long.
Yeah,
I think deep down he knows he was wrong.
You'd like to believe.
But now, one thing I will say, and in fairness to, I guess, Kirk Herbstreit, I mean, we've all done that dumbass thing that he's doing right now, where you're entrenched in an argument and hunkered down in it, and then thought better of it later on. It's a little bit different when it's your wife or best friend that you're willing to concede to. He doesn't know us from Adam. He's probably not going to say to us on a show called Seminole Headlines, or if he did an individual interview with any one of the three of us, yeah, you guys were right. I had it wrong. I doubt that's happened.
To Corey's point, it would take incredible poise and professionalism that I definitely don't have. I don't know if Corey has. You might have, to have a level-headed interview with him and not get emotional or confrontational.
Well, the one question I would ask, and I've always wanted to ask this, I would be like, and I would want to go down the path a little bit with it. I would want to say, because we all saw his reaction when Alabama hit the 4th and 31. It was abnormal. It was like he was the OC. I want to know. I want to hear from him, if they don't complete that pass and Auburn wins that game, do you still think Alabama deserved to go ahead of Florida State, even with 2 losses? Because that's the crux of the argument. I think he would say no.
Of course.
And if he says no, then do records matter or do they not matter? Because what does one miracle pass have to do with an entire season's worth of data points? So you can't tell me that Florida State is worse than Alabama because of that one pass. That clearly over the course of the season, they were a better team, right? Kirk, Alabama was the better team. So that pass shouldn't matter. But it does, because then it comes back to records mattering. Oh, wait, no, records don't matter. And that's where I would lose it. That's where I couldn't keep. Yeah, I don't think I could keep, not civil, but I would keep coming back to it. I wouldn't let him to be able to do a word salad and go past it.
Here's what I think. I think that he got lost trying to make a point, and the point he was trying to make was that the committee doesn't have to put Florida State in if they think somebody else is better. Anybody. They could put Oregon in with 2 losses. They could put, because of the bylaws, right? That was what he kept citing. It segued from that to Alabama specifically has to be in over Florida State, which was weird. If you want to point out that this flawed system has always been flawed, and that, oh, by the way, they could choose somebody else ahead of Florida State, like Texas. They could have said
Georgia.
Georgia would have been a good one. Ira, you're right.
Yeah.
They could have. You can make that point, because I made the point just sitting here talking with Tom. I was like, look, do I think Florida State's the 3rd or 4th best team in America? Probably not. I think Georgia's better than Florida State. At the time we were having the conversation, I probably named 4 teams, but I wasn't sure. And I said, and it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it has always been about what you achieved in the season, not about my opinion of who looks better. And they were saying, well, no, it's really about it. Back and forth we went. I'm like, nope. And I'll give you all the examples. Michigan State got in and they shouldn't have. TCU got in and they shouldn't have. If we're doing this, it was about merit. It's about how you got in. And so He got lost and cornered.
But I don't think. But I
and he
I would
never
agree
could come off.
If you're
it.
taking that on the up and up, if you're taking all of this on the up and up, I'd be with you. But the problem I have with any of this is, man, it was all a scam. They were going to get the SEC in no matter what.
Agreed.
So when Georgia lost, it was Alabama and Texas. Screw Florida State. So that for that reason. And Herb Street, they thought that might happen, which is why they set it up for the month ahead of time.
They did.
I watched enough pro wrestling back in the day. I know how this works.
You know how they set it up, buddy.
And so that's why I can't even have the conversation. And to Corey's point, like there's no way because nothing makes sense.
But what you're mad
doesn't
at,
make sense.
What he would tell you is that nobody told him how to vote. That's what he would tell you. You don't have to believe it. All right. We know that they did set this up. Right. I mean, we certainly can make the argument that they did. We certainly can make the argument that they did. They also knew because it was the last year they could get away with it. There'd be no repercussions.
Well, that might have been the what tipped it over.
That made it all the easier.
Yeah,
because it'll never happen again, and there would be no recourse. It stinks. It's always been a flawed system. I think a lot of things began to overlap one another, and then he became so entrenched and defensive, and then he just began to say stupid stuff.
Well, because he's arguing an indefensible position. So
yeah,
anyway.
it just got.
And he needs to maybe get off Twitter or not look like I have. I don't know 40,000 followers. I think Kirk Herbstreit has probably 1 million. I never look at my notifications because I'm worried that I'm going to get in an argument with somebody I don't know, and life's too short. YOLO, baby. Kirk Herbstreit has 1 million followers. What is he doing looking at his notifications with people trying to pick fights with him?
This happened a long time ago. Tom pointed it out when Scott Van Pelt used to get so mad at everybody on Twitter, and you get into these long-form arguments like Jerry in Omaha. You're like, what are you doing?
Just be above it. Just be above it. Just don't even interact, weirdo.
Hassan writes, gents, it's Super Bowl week. Not many Noles playing in the game on Sunday. Curious who you think from this draft class reaches the big game first. Well, I mean, depends on where you go.
Whoever the Falcons draft, baby. Who are the Falcons drafting? Braden Fisk in the second round? I'll take that.
Has the floor, Burke wants to know, has the floor of talent on the football team been raised?
Yes. Oh, no. Did he say the basketball team?
No, football team.
The floor. I mean, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. The infusion of guys from places like LSU, Georgia, and Alabama helped.
Yeah.
But also, I think their own recruits
and the high school signees are
getting better.
The last 2 classes have been good, I think.
Yeah.
And in the transfer.
I would say
the last 2.
It
no, for sure, it definitely has. I don't know that. And again, Bill Connolly put out his stats the other day of returning player, maybe yesterday, of returning production. And we knew Florida State obviously was going to lose so much compared to a year ago where they had so much. It's just such a weird difference. This season of last year, so weird in the sense that last year, all this returning experience, but a lot of those guys didn't have super high ceilings. This year, you have so much less returning experience, but I think you've got more guys with higher ceilings.
I'm going to stand by what I said. I know some people raised an eyebrow. I'll continue to say it. I think the offense is going to be more productive this year.
An active thread on the Tribal Council at warchant.com, people discussing that.
I do.
That's actually the title of Jeff Cameron says.
I'm just telling you, I think that the offense will be more consistent, and in the end of the day, I think it'll be a better offense. And I'm not like blaming any one person or anything. They had a lot of things go wrong for them last year, and most of it had to do with injury. And so, like, if you just stay remotely healthy.
But you also will understand when people question whether this team's going to be good. Because just talking to some other media people who were like, man, so what are they going to do at receiver? What are they going to do? There's going to be a lot of questions about this team that we'll see answers to in the spring.
I have no problem with people wondering that out loud. And I myself am curious about a few guys, but I'm making some assumptions based on observation of those individuals like Hakeem Williams that I believe he's going to take a massive step forward. Now, if you're not in this beat and you're not covering day-to-day practices and you didn't get to see everything that led up to when he got his opportunity, unfortunately got hurt shortly thereafter, well, then you don't know how close he was to being a real dude for this team this past year.
Justin Hill's another one. Yeah, there's several of those guys.
Chaco McNasty writes, just a big thank you for all that you do. And he sent a picture of he and his family at Disney. Remember he asked about Disney?
I actually saw that on Twitter, and maybe Matt wants to throw it on the show. But yeah, it was cool. It was an awesome picture. Him and his little daughter at
on
Disney
his
World.
shoulders. Yeah.
Is there a scooter in the background?
Actually, that's Epcot, isn't it? It looks like, I don't know. Disney
Did you guys know the whole park is not inside that ball?
Yeah, we did.
Epcot ball?
Buddy.
Okay.
We did.
I found that out last year.
Corey, continue. He answers your question. Corey.
Disney was as expensive as hell.
Yes.
Easy for somebody else to say. There were FUPA's everywhere, and scooter traffic was worse than Miami. However, I'll do it all again after my little one told me that her dreams came true.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet.
Good for you, Chaco. It's a better time than Jeff and Corey will lead you guys to believe.
It depends on when you go and with whom.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's Epcot. Yep.
Yeah, that's good time.
That also looks like the perfect age to go.
Yeah,
do
you
that
got
kind of stuff.
Oh, I loved it when my kids were little and to see their faces light up. A little bit
But not too little that they're not going to remember it. Like she looks to be the perfect age, that sweet spot of like, I don't know, 9 to 11, where it is still kind of magical and really fun.
We would go, we started going, the kids were like in the strollers and stuff.
Like,
and it's
they're
like
never going to remember.
What's the
they're
point?
tired and miserable. But
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Another good one is good afternoon, gents. FSU recruited the 25th best player out of Georgia. That's Landon Thomas. And the 25th best player out of Florida, Micah Danzey, the running back. Which player will have the greater impact in the upcoming season? And which will have the better career at FSU?
Was Landon Thomas really the 25th best player in Georgia? I thought he was like the number one tight end in the
he dropped like a lead balloon in the on-3 rankings. I guess maybe all of them, but yeah. I don't know why, but he went from the number 1 tight end in the country to like I think double digits.
Still 25th best player in Georgia is not bad.
No, he's good.
It's
and I mean, he's not rated terribly. He's still a 4-star, but yeah, his rating. People a lot of times will say, "Oh, we signed the number 1 tight end in the country," not by the final rankings.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of how it works.
Doesn't matter. Who do we think is going to have the better career? Is what he wants to know. Danzey or Thomas?
I think the easy money's on Thomas, but I like Danzey, man. He's got real speed. He's a player, and a lot of people I know that have watched him in high school are really high on him. But I would think Landon Thomas he's going to especially have a chance earlier because I think they're going to need somebody to be a pass catcher at tight end to help Kyle Morlock. Whereas at running back, I don't think that's a huge need.
Like Danzey's isn't he like a legit track guy, like a track?
He is. Yeah.
Man, the one thing I don't know if the offense will be any better. It'll be faster,
100%.
Much faster. They got speed everywhere.
Trick Love the Kids asks, should football put 2023 13-0 inside Doak where they list all their other achievements? Should they remove ACC champs, put conference champs instead? Something maybe similar in the below photo. And he's showing the accomplishments on the wall up, all that. I'd put 13-0 2023.
Yeah, I would too.
I've always laughed at the schools that did the asterisk, but yeah, I got no problem with that.
When we head to the Big Ten, do we want Miami to join us, writes Clint? If they don't, and we can only keep one rival, who do we keep? If we drop Miami, then they will have 0 rivals and 0 sellouts. It's true. I'm not worried about the fortunes of Miami, Clint. And if we only had to keep one rival, I think most people would vote Florida.
What do you think, Corey?
Over Clemson?
Oh,
well, no. I mean, I don't understand the premise of the question is you're dropping Miami anyway, so it's either Florida.
No, I think he was saying if you could only keep
Florida or Miami.
Yeah, Florida. I'm done with Clemson. They're quiet as a mouse. Quiet as a mouse over there. That I'm done with them. And then Miami, Jeff's right. Miami, they can just go.
It wouldn't. I don't think it would affect. It wouldn't affect anybody's life if Florida State stopped playing Clemson anymore. But I think Florida and Miami, for different reasons, different people have different. The one thing I would say about Miami going to the Big Ten, and do we care or not? I mean, I kind of like the idea of them wasting away in the ACC.
I love that idea.
But
I'm getting there with Clemson.
Got to have a better set of circumstances involving your facilities to get into either the SEC or the Big Ten. I think Miami's out. They play little boy football. They don't have a real practice facility. They don't have their own stadium. We can't let you into a real conference if this is the way you're going to be.
I just like that the Big Ten and the SEC are forming a committee to do what's right for college athletics. They're looking at the future of college athletics and what's good for the sport.
So great to read that, to see that headline. I was like, oh, yeah. Thank goodness somebody's doing it.
Especially those two that have always thought about the betterment of the sport and of college athletes in general.
Yeah, I can imagine the conversations, just the concern that they would come from those conversations.
I'm getting
about
worried
these other
about what's going to happen to the ACC and the Big 12 if we continue like this.
Yeah, clearly.
Let's sit down and talk about this. It's had a deleterious effect on the ACC for sure. I don't know how much longer the Big 12 is going to hang on. Look what we did to the Pac-12. Good Lord.
Guys, I think, look, Jim Phillips is right. We don't want to live in a gated community anymore.
Yeah.
We want to live in a world where we all just kind of intermingle.
And the garbage has to be picked up in middle-class neighborhoods too, guys. That's all I'm saying. Seminole Headlines, 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Hello, I'm Dana Brooks.
And I'm Jimmy Basic of Basic Brooks Law Offices.
Traffic cameras are everywhere these days.
And Basic Brooks is partnered with RoadProof to get access to all their vast network of cameras.
This is a valuable tool to help us search for evidence that could help you if you were involved in an accident.
If you've been hurt in an accident, call Basic Brooks and we'll find out if the proof you need is out there.
Call Basic Brooks and we'll do everything we can to help you come back stronger.
Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Hey, you, with the shopping cart. It's us, Leafy Greens.
Leafy what?
Greens. Delicious, locally grown leafy green vegetables. I'm romaine. This is arugula.
Hello.
Spinach.
Ahoy.
Escarole and endive.
Bonjour.
Right. I put you guys on my sandwiches.
Oh, we're more than just a sandwich layer.
We add crunch to your salads.
Flavor to soups. And a little je ne sais quoi to your dishes.
That is, if you let us. For meals with personality, look for the Sunny Fresh from Florida logo where you shop.
A cup of Joe, Java, Brew, Go-Go Beans, Brainwater, Liquid Lightning, Wakey Juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roast master himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Get to grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee. I'm Greg Tisch, and I want to share one of my favorite TCC alumni stories. It's been almost 30 years since Charlie Ward led the 1993 FSU football team to its first national championship, won the Heisman, and became the first Heisman winner to play in the NBA. But did you know, like thousands of students before and since, he started his college career at TCC? We are proud to call Charlie Ward one of our own. Today, he serves on the TCC District Board of Trustees, so you might even get to see him around campus.
TCC thanks our community for 58 years of support. We look forward to moving into the future together.
Hey folks, it's me, Mac and More, spokesperson for Tallahassee's favorite Apple and Mac product store, Mac and More. We all know what Mac is all about. It's your MacBooks, iMacs, Apple Watch, iPhones, iPads, we've all got them. But what's really cool is the and more. And there's a lot more at Mac and More. They can help set up your new gear, migrate and back up your data, teach you new tricks and how to use everything better. And if something costs too much to fix, they'll tell you the truth. There's a lot more at Mac and More. See for yourself at macandmoresystems.com. Or you can take it from me, Mr. Mac and More.
It's obvious. The unthinkable continues. Most Americans know something very wrong is happening. People in charge keep telling you that everything's fine and to stop noticing. But you know better. That's why self-reliant folks are investing in emergency food storage. And you should too. My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, are the ones you can trust. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each contains tasty breakfasts, lunches, and dinners averaging over 2,000 calories per day. Save $200 on each 3-month food kit you purchase. My Patriot Supply also sells solar generators, gravity-powered water filters, off-grid room heaters for when the power goes out, heirloom seeds, and survival gear. Order by 3 p.m. and your items ship that same day and arrive quickly on your doorstep in unmarked boxes. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today. Time is running out to prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Jeff, this is a Seymour, writes Kara. Hi, guys. It was a pleasure meeting you in Charlotte. And yes, our club is planning a welcome party here in Dallas. We're excited to have you all in town. Last week, we were at the Shrine Bowl, and the guys here were a bit overwhelmed by the Noles in attendance. We all made sure to thank them for their special season. We wanted to let them know how much joy it brought all of us as fans. One of them got teary-eyed when we told him how much it meant to all of Nole Nation. It's sad to know that they'll never really get the opportunity to celebrate what they could have. This leads me to the recent Kirk Herbstreit comments. Can you guys have him on Seminole Headlines? Or, Jeff, would you do an interview with him so he can actually understand these frustrations of the fan base? It's disingenuous to have him insult the fan base while he claims that he's a fan of FSU. I just wish he would leave it alone or have closure by speaking with some of you guys. Love the Noles. I love the show. Go Noles.
And we did meet Karen. She was really cool and enjoyed meeting her. And I could see how she would feel this way. You could tell. I think there's probably other Florida State fans that feel the same way, that are like kind of a little bit hurt. Like they want Herbstreit back to the guy that they used to like.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's anything we can do. We've covered it before. I don't know if there's anything we can do.
It can't happen if he looks at Twitter. And that's not me being jokey. Like the worst instincts of humanity are in the notifications on Twitter. They just are. And so what he's going to do is the same thing all the national writers did in 2014 and judge an entire fan base by people on Twitter. And it's
he's saying that's exactly what he's not going to do.
But it is absolutely what he's going to do. And now he's going to hate Florida State. I'm sure when he talks to his wife or his friends or his dog, he's lamenting Florida State fans in general, thinking that they're all like that and not realizing at all, like, man, Florida State fans have never come at you like this before. Maybe reflect a little bit, look inward and be like, why are they so mad at me? That's happened to me a few times. It's happened to all of us a few times. And you look inward and either you stand your ground, which he's defiantly doing for some dumb reason, or you can actually see somebody else's point of view and be like, yeah, I see why you're hurt. And I see why my reasoning doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's the part there. You're adding that second part you're not going to hear. He's not going to be like, guys, I was completely illogical. Sorry about that. He's not going to do that. He might get to where he understands, because there were people who shared the sentiment that Florida State didn't deserve to get in, who then would follow up with, but I understand why they're mad. You know, I mean, like they saw pretty clearly.
Yeah, he basically came back. His biggest problem was doubling down and doubling down and doubling down.
Yes.
And now he's in this mess he's in.
So I would say, though, I mean, is he going to be in Ireland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's in Ireland, I would think maybe by July, as like a kind of a preview of the whole show that's going to be in Ireland, maybe middle of August. They might have him on. They might have him do the media circuit, but to promote their visit to Ireland. So maybe that would be a good time. And it would be, what would that be, 6 months from now? So maybe it would be a little less hostile.
One of you guys, if you could be on Wake Up Warchant, or it could be on the Jeff Cameron show. It ain't going to be on this show because I couldn't do it. I can't stomach him. He's full of
it's full of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be understood immediately. Like, you have to answer these questions. I mean, these are tough questions.
And they're unanswerable.
It'd be cool if we did it as like a sit down at Ruby Diamond, like sold tickets, had like 1,500 people there. And it was like a night with Kirk Herbstreit, but knowing that one of us is going to ask him questions. So people know we're not going to just sit there like, who was Cheryl Swoops talking to where she just made up stuff about Caitlin Clark? Gilbert Arenas maybe on his podcast. She's like, look, Caitlin Clark's been in college for 5 years. She's 25 years old. She's played, and none of it was true. And they're just sitting there letting her spew all this nonsense about Caitlin Clark because she's butthurt because Caitlin Clark is very, very, very good. But yeah, so it wouldn't be that. We wouldn't let Kirk Herbstreit just say nonsense. We would interrupt him. We would challenge him, and he probably wouldn't want that.
Jeffrey writes, gentlemen and Jeff, love the show. Even listen to it sometimes while rounding at the hospital discreetly. Yeah. Would love to hear each of y'all's favorite and maybe lesser known Coach Martin story. Also thoughts on what our pitching staff is going to look like this year. Well, not to dismiss you, Jeffrey, and I'm not trying to not answer the question, but we did almost an hour's worth of those stories right after or the day he passed, actually. And so you can find that. It's on warchant.com, Warchant TV. You can see that there. There's all kinds of stories and insights there. And then how will our pitching staff look this year? Well, I would argue it couldn't be worse. So I think that's a fair assessment here early on.
People who are closer to the baseball program than we are currently are excited about the pitching. They think the pitching is going to be a lot better. So hopefully it will be.
Remember Link last year was like warning us way ahead of time. Like, guys, We don't have a lot of arms. We don't have much depth. This is the least amount of depth I've ever had, including like at UNC Greensboro. Like, we just don't have a lot of depth. And he proved prophetic.
And then
once they
lost
lost Wyatt Crowell, that was a wrap.
It wasn't great before then. Once you lost your ace, it was a wrap.
I can say this now. I did a pretty lengthy interview with him before the start of last season, and we did a StreamYard link and the whole thing, and Tom was producing it. And so it was a good back and forth conversation, and I enjoyed the conversation with the link. And then once he, not once but twice, mentioned that there was a dearth of pitching and kind of talked about some of the imaginative ways they were going to have to piece it together. We finished the interview, and Link thanked us, and I thanked him, and he went on his way. And then I looked at Tom on the streamer, and I'm like, they better not lose any of that starting pitching. And then what happens? The first week, you're like, okay.
And you never know, because it was our first year interacting with Link. We're like, okay, is he Lou Holtz in it? Is he poor mouthing his team? But really, he's got all these future aces. And like, no, he was calling it like he saw it. They didn't have a lot of depth. Hey, by the way, real quick, Scotty Barnes was just added to the All-Star game.
Good for Scotty.
Trey Young too. If you're clocking that, Trey Young and Scotty Barnes, because of Embiid and Julius Randle are both out, so they had to replace them. So Scotty Barnes makes his first All-Star game.
Good for Scotty Barnes.
First of many, probably.
Robert writes, gents, if we get accepted into the Big Ten instead of the SEC, wouldn't it have the feel of being like an independent before we were in the ACC?
Just because of the teams you're playing?
Just because of, just randomness.
Yeah, Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, all those. You wouldn't have the Tulanes and the Southern Misses sprinkled in there like you did back in the independent days. But, it would be. There's like no history with any of them. If there is, it's like 3 games. You're going all over the country.
The days of playing East Carolina and having to be 48-45 and all the Hassan Jones. Let's go.
Who do you think? Who do you think of the currently constructed Big Ten? Like, who, if Florida State joined it, nobody else joins it, no Miami or Clemson or anybody else, who do you think would evolve into the big rival? Penn State?
I think Ohio. Yeah, it could be Penn State because of the whole all-time wins thing and who their coach was that has the record. I think he has the record. It's hard to remember.
Who do you think?
No, I'm trying to say who, because I think it's kind of that's random, right? Because we're not close.
It would
to
probably have to come out of circumstances.
It would. That's what I'm saying. You'd
like
have to be
some bad blood.
I think Penn
Ohio State and Penn State are good ones.
But Ohio State's, you're never going to be Ohio State's biggest rival ever. You can't.
More Michigan's, but I'm saying like it would have to be.
But you could be Penn State's biggest rival. They don't have. What's their rival?
Well, it's supposed to be Ohio State. It's supposed to be West Virginia, Pitt. It's supposed to be.
But they don't play those teams. They don't play those teams. That would be a cool.
Ohio State, Michigan every year. They lose to them every year.
Ohio State's not viewing them as their big rival.
Right.
No, I was talking about Pitt and West Virginia. They don't play those teams anymore. It used to be West Virginia and it used to be Pitt, but they're not even on the schedule anymore. And they're never going to be Ohio State and Michigan's biggest game. Florida State could be Penn State's biggest game every year. Yeah, and there's the connection with Bowden and Paterno and the Blockbuster Bowl from 1990. There's still hard
James
feelings.
Franklin trying to get in the mix for the job.
Yeah. But we're akin to Ohio State and Michigan. We're not stooping down to Penn State.
I know. I understand. That's a good point.
Go there, buddy.
Fair counter. USC maybe. Similar colors. Both have horses.
That would be great. Great Big Ten rivals, Florida State and Southern Cal. It's the biggest rivalry.
It's another Big Ten noon Saturday with the Trojans and the Seminoles.
Justin writes, if you could take someone's ability from last year's team and transplant it into a player on this year's team, what would you do?
Someone's what?
Ability.
Ability.
You could take Braden Fisk's ability and give it to the kid from Colorado State, for example.
I see you.
Corey, who are you going with? What would you do? Would you take Versus ability and put it in the kid in the West Virginia?
Did he say just overall ability or like one?
Someone's ability.
Okay. I was thinking like Keon Coleman's leaping ability.
Into Williams.
But also he says like you could take Fisk's explosiveness at the snap of the ball and put it into Daryl Jackson.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. Like take one trait from a player, like Johnny Wilson's height, and give it to
Hakeem Williams.
Yeah, or something. I think I would take Jordan Travis's ability to not turn the ball over and to diagnose it quickly, to know that he's not going to make a mistake, and give that to DJ.
That's a good one.
I think I would give Keon Coleman's ability to catch the ball in traffic to one of our wide receivers, like to make contested catches, tough catches, red zone catches that result in touchdowns, head topping people.
I'd give Kalen DeLoach's speed to
that Auburn kid who's 245.
So one of the linebackers, any of the linebackers. Pick a linebacker, give them Kalen DeLoach's speed.
I'd give Mastromano's ability to kick with either foot
but
and give it to Jeremiah Byers. just to see what you can do with it, baby. You gotta be able to do something with that.
Oh boy. Love the headline question. Askers seem to always be on the same page. I check just to make sure that I don't ask a repeat question. And literally there are like 3 that I had in mind that were already there. With that said, are you guys excited about lacrosse coming to us?
Can't wait.
Is that true?
Michael.
Women's lacrosse, buddy. Yeah, it's coming.
Was that in that? I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
A few months ago, they basically had to. They were getting sued about Title IX. So the club team, with some representation, sued Florida State, and as part of those negotiations, we're adding women's lacrosse to Florida State.
Why don't they add men's lacrosse?
Because that would not help Title IX situations. That would actually make it worse.
You could add a women's team.
When John Thrasher was here, President Thrasher was here. He wanted to add men's lacrosse.
You're damn right. It's interesting.
But no,
unlike women's lacrosse,
that's not happening. They need to get the Title IX better in order. So women's lacrosse they're going to field the team. I think this next year they're going to be signing players, and then they will start playing the year after that.
Wouldn't that be cool if they just became like an absolute juggernaut? I mean, they're in the ACC, so Lord knows they're going to be celebrated if they're any good at all at lacrosse. But like if they just somehow
hopefully
this is
they
the
never
perfect
play in the
time.
ACC.
Well, right, they'll dominate the Big Ten. Are you kidding me? With the speed from down here, they'll dominate women's lacrosse up there.
They should add a second women's beach volleyball team.
If they
in the interest of opportunity, of course.
If they join the Big Ten, maybe a wrestling team.
Yeah,
it's huge in the Big Ten.
Volleyball uniforms.
I think some of these ACT teams wrestle.
NC State does, yeah. State like Virginia Tech, yeah.
Who they wrestle?
I was flipping their channels. And I was like, I wonder if there's a basketball game in the ACC network, and there's like 3 hours of a college wrestling match.
Yeah,
some ACC teams. I'm like, oh, that's great.
And I watched this. Somehow I got on the Big Ten. I was watching a Big Ten wrestling match on a Friday night because that's what the dog does.
Corey is having a tough life.
I'm going through a crisis.
What are we doing?
But if they think that you took somebody down and it wasn't called correctly, they challenge it, but they don't challenge it by calling a timeout. They throw a foam brick at the referee who feels the brick hit him, and then he calls timeout. They have a challenge brick.
That's the greatest protest I've ever heard of.
They should have that in basketball.
A brick, but a real brick.
That's fantastic.
If you were a referee,
getting hit upside the head every night.
If you were a referee and know there's a chance you made a bad call, and if you made a bad call, there's a brick coming at you, or a real brick, you're going to be a lot more dialed in. A what?
Seminole Headlines 90. A wrench. Seminole Headlines 93.3. Real Talk Radio Warchant TV continues in a moment.
Hello, I'm Dana Brooks.
And I'm Jimmy Basic of Basic Brooks Law Offices.
Traffic cameras are everywhere these days.
And Basic Brooks has partnered with Roadproof to get access to all their vast network of cameras.
This is a valuable tool to help us search for evidence that could help you if you were involved in an accident.
If you've been hurt in an accident, call Basic Brooks and we'll find out if the proof you need is out there.
Call Basic Brooks and we'll do everything we can to help you come back stronger.
Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Hey, you, with the shopping cart. It's us, Leafy Greens.
Leafy what?
Greens. Delicious, locally grown leafy green vegetables. I'm romaine. This is arugula.
Hello.
Spinach.
Ahoy.
Escarole and endive.
Bonjour.
Right. I put you guys on my sandwiches.
Oh, we're more than just a sandwich layer.
We add crunch to your salads.
Flavor to soups. And a little je ne sais quoi to your dishes.
That is, if you let us. For meals with personality, look for the Sunny Fresh from Florida logo where you shop.
A cup of Joe, Java, Brew, Go-Go Beans, Brain Water, Liquid Lightning, Wakey Juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roastmaster himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Hit grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee. I'm Greg Tisch, and I want to share one of my favorite TCC alumni stories. It's been almost 30 years since Charlie Ward led the 1993 FSU football team to its first national championship, won the Heisman, and became the first Heisman winner to play in the NBA. But did you know, like thousands of students before and since, he started his college career at TCC? We are proud to call Charlie Ward one of our own. Today, he serves on the TCC District Board of Trustees, so you might even get to see him around campus.
TCC thanks our community for 58 years of support. We look forward to moving into the future together.
Hey folks, it's me, Mac and More, spokesperson for Tallahassee's favorite Apple and Mac product store, Mac and More. We all know what Mac is all about. It's your MacBooks, iMacs, Apple Watch, iPhones, iPads, we've all got them. But what's really cool is the and more. And there's a lot more at Mac and More. They can help set up your new gear, migrate and back up your data, teach you new tricks and how to use everything better. And if something costs too much to fix, they'll tell you the truth. There's a lot more at Mac and More. See for yourself at macandmoresystems.com. Or you can take it from me, Mr. Mac and More.
It's obvious. The unthinkable continues. Most Americans know something very wrong is happening. People in charge keep telling you that everything's fine and to stop noticing. But you know better. That's why self-reliant folks are investing in emergency food storage. You should too. My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, are the ones you can trust. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each contains tasty breakfasts, lunches, and dinners averaging over 2,000 calories per day. Save $200 on each 3-month food kit you purchase. My Patriot Supply also sells solar generators, gravity-powered water filters, off-grid room heaters for when the power goes out, heirloom seeds, and survival gear. Order by 3 p.m. and your items ship that same day and arrive quickly on your doorstep in unmarked boxes. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today. Time is running out to prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
Life is stressful. Dinner shouldn't be. That motto is why Register Sausage has been doing business in the Florida Panhandle and Lower Alabama for over 75 years. A proud sponsor of Seminole Headlines, Register Sausage always provides the best Southern smoked sausage to over 140 grocery stores and restaurants throughout the Southeast. Headliners have discovered the Register's difference. You can too. To find a store that carries Registers near you or to buy directly, head to registermeats.com. That's registermeats.com. Register Sausage. Yay, sausage!
Seminole Headlines returns now. Head to YouTube and search for Warchant TV today to catch the show live or on demand. Now, here's Jeff Cameron, Ira Schofel, and Corey Clark.
Moth asks this question. I asked this last offseason. I'd like to go ahead and revisit it. Which number is bigger, number of wins in 2024 or years employed at current institution for either Mario Cristobal or Sunbelt Billy? Well, it's going to be wins for FSU.
Wins.
Yeah, wins. Yeah. Well,
and Mario's got
a chance.
Cristobal's got a shot, yeah.
Could get to 9 years
6
there.
or 7.
I think he
9?
gets to 9. Yeah. Where's he going to go? And who are they going to get better than him?
I don't know, man. We'll see. 9 seems really high.
Sunbelt Billy ain't getting there.
No.
He's
we're putting the over at 2.5.
I'm putting the in.
Well, I guess we got to put it.
He's going to be 9 months.
I'm going to say 1.5. I'm going to give him 1.5 as the over under here. That's a toughie. Thoughts on the Big Ten SEC advisory group, guys? Interesting. They want to plan a path forward for all of college sports without input from the other conferences.
I think Corey said it best earlier.
Yeah.
We're just happy that somebody's looking out for the good interest of the sport.
Yeah, they always have. They wanted USC and UCLA. They didn't think that would hurt the Pac-12 if they took USC and UCLA and Washington, Oregon. Just like the SEC had no idea that the Big 12 would crumble without Texas and Oklahoma.
And Texas.
Thought they'd get somebody else. I figured they'd just pick up somebody, Baylor or something.
So somebody akin to Oklahoma or Texas, sure. Lane writes, I listened to Jameis on PMT. First question. Does Jameis get a coaching job at FSU after retiring from football? And when will he be on Headlines, JCS, or Wake Up?
You've had him on JCS.
I've had him on probably 5 times.
Yeah.
He's been on a lot. As far as he gets a coaching job,
I don't know if that's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, I think the idea being he's charismatic and he can lead players. There's no doubt in my mind that he would have that ability. I don't know if coaching is what he wants to do, though. The clip of him in church the other day, I mean, you could see him leading a mega church or something. I mean, he's such a great speaker.
He's a charismatic guy. I actually think he'd probably fill a better role, oddly, as a coach than he does sometimes as a player. It's weird because I think he's somewhat polarizing to people, and I don't know that
You think he's polarizing to teammates?
I think there have been some moments.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Now I'm not saying I'm not trying to allege anything terrible here. I just think not everybody gets along with Jameis. It's just interesting.
It's a lot. He's a lot. I mean, he's a lot. Yeah,
he's a lot. We had nothing but good interactions with him, obviously, and he's fun. And one thing I will say though, that this always stuck with me, and this was probably the greatest compliment he ever got. The way that he would treat other players on the baseball team, like guys, the bullpen catchers and stuff. He likes talking ball. So when we were talking about getting back to coaching, like he can accept that a guy is not who he is as a player, doesn't have the same stature, right? But he loves talking about football, baseball, technique, things of that ilk. And I think he can teach it. I bet he can teach it.
Yeah.
I think that would probably work. Yeah.
I do like the fact that I don't watch Part of My Take, not that everything against it, just
it's not your thing.
It's not something my thing, but I did like that he did that interview because I think it was a good opportunity for people to see who he is without him going into these interviews where he's so often, it seems like it's just all they do is want to bring up anything negative that's ever been. Why hasn't your career panned out? Or why did this happen?
Right.
And it was just letting Jameis be Jameis. And I think that was cool and people were in love with that interview.
I didn't see a lot of it. I do like that he gave Charlie some love. I saw that he gave Charlie Ward some love about when he was asked about the best athlete of all time. And they said Bo Jackson because they're from the same hometown. It's like, yeah, it's got to be Bo or maybe Prime. And then he's like, but don't sleep on Charlie Ward. He was a Heisman Trophy winner, didn't get drafted, and there was a number 1 draft pick in the NBA and played for a decade in the NBA in a whole different sport. So he gave him a love. And he also said something interesting about he thinks it hurt him when he stopped playing baseball because of the swings he would get. He'd take 200 swings a day or whatever he said from the left side and the right side, and how the flexion helped keep him athletic and nimble because when you're doing that 200 times both sides, you have no choice but to be flexible and nimble. And he kind of lost that when he just focused on football. I thought that was interesting.
He's always been a fun interview for me to do because I know he'll talk. If he trusts you, if he trusts that you're not going to ambush him and you're going to have a regular conversation, he'll open up and talk. Noles writes, one comment, one question. Ira's now replacing Mike Tirico as the hardest working man in sports. Look at you, buddy.
Yeah. And you don't stalk women you work with either,
like
old Tirico did.
Allegedly, right? Allegedly?
No, he did it. It was back in the 90s when he was like 24 years old. But yeah, there's a whole book about it on the
I know
beginning of ESPN.
Number 2, we keep hearing about how several of the wide receivers were hurt last year, banged up. What gives at that position? I understand string of offensive line injuries as well, but wide receiver, man, I think injury luck is what it is. It's just dumb luck. I mean, it's not like they weren't trained. It was not like they weren't preparing their bodies. They all were. It's just they got unlucky. That's really my answer. They got unlucky.
It's crazy. Who was healthy? Who was healthy the whole season? Did they have one? Like Williamson wasn't. Portier wasn't. Ja'Kai wasn't. Ja'Kai got hurt the first day of camp. Coleman was hurt the second half of the year. Johnny had the concussion. Was Deuce? Was he the only one that was out there the whole time?
No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't healthy either. Destin got hurt as well.
Yeah, they all missed significant time. Like you had 9 guys, and they all missed significant time.
It was very strange, and it just mounted.
I do think, a lot of times when there are injuries, people will automatically turn towards the strength and conditioning staff and say maybe there's something they're not doing. I don't usually believe that. And I am inclined to believe that this was just kind of a rash of injuries in one spot, but they definitely need to evaluate it because it was a problem across the whole position.
Incredibly frustrating. You didn't know what you could do week to week. And I agree with you. It does seem odd. It's disproportionate to have that many injuries, but I would say this, it's disproportionate to have that many injuries on offense alone. Like the defense stayed relatively healthy. The offense was hurt everywhere.
And it wasn't like a consistent kind of injury, they were different kind. There were some ankles, some knees, different things involved.
Which one of the 3 of you, this is from Ask Backwards. What's the name?
Me.
Which one of the 3 of you is most likely to snap and go on an unhinged Herb Street-esque rant the more you reflect on the loss to, say, Louisville? And why is it Ira? He's talking about basketball. I don't think Ira's going to go on a rant.
No, and the thing, like I said before about the basketball games, to me, I can look at it as, man, that was just an awful day. But as far as I think Corey's most likely to go after Herbstreit on Twitter. I just don't think you don't get as many at bats on Twitter.
I try not to.
And
I grew some time ago to just loathe Twitter.
You know what? You're a. Well, can we talk about your Instagram account? It's not your name, so
right.
But you have an Instagram account.
It's a good one,
not under your name, and but you're pretty active on that. You're more active than I keep telling my kids.
Is it still balls deep? Is that your Instagram account?
With a Z.
With a Z. Remember to say it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, you're like my inspiration. You're my spirit animal on Instagram. I'm like, I need to learn how to do a story.
Dude,
Kids, show me how to do a story.
I'll do some stories now for you.
You do? I do.
Yeah, they're fun.
I got to see what's going on with Jeff.
There we go.
But I think the answer to this question, I think he was saying, I think he was saying who would go on a Herbstreit like rant about that basketball loss. The answer is Jeff.
Yeah,
not on Twitter, but on just in life. I think he would go on more of a rant.
I think that's
I'm close.
I think it's fair. Yeah,
I got kind of unhinged watching the end of that game, mainly because it was a 2-hour and 40-minute basketball game. But I was close. But Jeff's the guy.
I was mad already, and then when that was happening, and as the score was mounting, I was like, man, it's more than the loss. We're about to give up 100+ to these clowns.
You know, I was actually more mad. Now I'm sorry if I misunderstanding the question. I'm actually more mad at I was as a game when I was more mad at myself that I was watching it.
Yeah.
As I got to 2 hours and 40 minutes and I'm still watching this ridiculous game. I'm like, why am I doing this?
And you were in Mobile earlier that day.
True.
You rushed back to do that.
Hours, sir.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Another Kirk Herbstreit observation from Graham. This will be our last question.
Well, maybe we should find something different then.
He just writes, he still doesn't get it, does he? And does he really expect to have a great time in Ireland? Because at the end of his tweet, he wrote, I won't hold this against the Noles and their real fans. See you in Ireland week 0.
Yeah, that's not going to go great, Kurt.
No.
It's not.
I'm sure
he's
there's
really going to need, I don't want people to be physical with this guy.
So don't say it. Don't say it.
But no, I'm saying like I hope he doesn't just walk into a pub and sit down and expect not to have people boo at him or shame him like it's the Game of Thrones. Like he is not going to be able to just sit down and have a good time with Florida State fans. I'm not saying he needs a bodyguard, but he will be run out of that place with people just yelling, hopefully just saying things to him.
I will say this.
Do not get physical, please.
No, I agree, probably. But I also know there are people that have taken shots at me on social media, and then when I see him in person, they're like, want to be your friend.
Yeah.
And I think he'll get a lot of that.
But he'll get a lot of the other one, too.
He'll get a lot of it when it's in a one-on-one setting or a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 setting. People will be nicer. If he's up on a stage on like a game day platform and there's just a mob, then I think there'll be more of the attacking stuff.
For Corey Clark and Ira Schafel, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We appreciate you. Podcast will be available later today. Good job, director. I know it was hell today. We had some technical issues. Peace.